Don't let these silly mistakes that make a kitchen look cheap not only lower your home's value, but also serve as mold traps and toxic lead poisoning hazards, silently destroying your entire family's health. You'd be awesome if you subscribe and like this video. 1. Refrigerator protruding past the cabinetry. This is a mistake I spot with my bare eyes within the first 3 seconds of walking into a kitchen. A standard refrigerator is about 35 to 36 inches deep, including the handles, while kitchen cabinets are only 24 inches deep. The difference is an entire block of metal sticking out into the walkway, waiting for someone to bump into it unexpectedly, which is usually children running around the house. A 5-year-old boy in Seattle once ran forehead first into the corner of a refrigerator door sticking out nearly 8 inches, requiring 3 stitches. The family then built a wood enclosure around the fridge, costing $400, and completely changed the door swing direction to eliminate that dead angle. One thing many people don't know is that a refrigerator not secured in a sturdy frame can easily shift when slammed open or shut, causing items on top of the fridge to fall. I once saw a whole stack of cookie tins collapse onto the head of someone bending down to get vegetables from the bottom drawer. Luckily, it was just cookie tins and not something heavier. The way to avoid this from the start is simple. Choose a counter-depth refrigerator, which is only 28 to 30 inches deep, flushing right with the cabinet face. Or build wood side panels on both sides of the refrigerator, matching the exact depth of the fridge body, both hiding the unfinished metal sides and covering the sharp corners. If the house has adjacent space behind it like a pantry or understair alcove, recessing it back an extra 6 inches to push the fridge in is also fine, without spending money on a new appliance. I often advise clients to do this first because it is much cheaper than buying a whole new refrigerator just to get the right size. 2. Messy under-cabinet lighting wiring. Shiny quartz countertops, real oak cabinets, and then under the cabinets, a crooked electrical wire sticks out, taped down with yellowed tape. That sight ruins everything. A tens of thousands of dollars project turns into an unfinished, patched-up job just because of a tiny detail no one paid attention to during planning. It's not just a matter of looking ugly. Dangling wires near the sink or cutting boards are truly dangerous. Water splashing into the plug causes a short circuit, or a knife accidentally cutting into the wire while chopping food. This happens more often than you think, especially in kitchens where young children often run around the cooking area. Done properly, the wiring must be run inside the walls during the rough-in stage, hidden behind the light valance under the cabinets. This is the recommended standard in the kitchen design industry. But if the kitchen is already finished, there's no need to hassle with tearing up walls. Rechargeable magnetic or 3M tape. Mounted LED light bars cost $20 to $30 for the whole kitchen. When the battery dies, just take them down and charge them like a phone. If you want it even neater, use self-adhesive plastic wire raceways that match the cabinet bottom color to route all excess wire into hidden corners, away from children's reach and wet areas. I usually advise clients to do both solutions at the same time to be safe. The lighting is now neat, but what about the distance between the range, refrigerator, and sink? There is a silent mistake that makes you walk twice as much during every meal prep. 3. Poor kitchen layout violating the work triangle. A gold-plated kitchen can still look cheap, not because of the materials, but because of the layout. I often tell this to clients when they're torn between choosing high-end countertops or rearranging the appliances. Choosing the wrong placement is far worse than choosing the wrong materials, because you'll be living with the inconvenience every day, not just seeing it in pictures. There was a family in Boston who had their refrigerator directly opposite and too close to the stovetop. Every time the husband opened the refrigerator for water, the wife, frying food nearby, would jump and press against the hot stovetop. This happened almost every night until they reversed the direction of the refrigerator door and moved the food preparation area to the other side of the sink. There's a rule I always remind my clients. The distance between the sides of the functional triangle should be between 12 and 26 feet in total. Too short and it feels cramped. Too long and it's tiring to walk. If you don't have the budget to tear down walls and redo the plumbing and electrical work, that's okay. Rearranging the furniture solves most of the problem. Always leave 15 to 24 inches of space next to the stovetop so that hot pots can be placed down immediately after being removed. Move baby food cabinets or coffee makers away from the cooking area to disperse traffic flow and reduce the risk of collisions when someone is carrying hot items. 4. Overusing trendy LED strip lights. I hate to say this to anyone who is proud of their color-changing LED system around the kitchen island, but that trend is outdated. A few years ago, you couldn't open TikTok without seeing people installing strip lights all over the kitchen, under cabinets, above cabinets, under toe kicks, and around kitchen islands. It looks magical in a 30-second video, but this year it actually backfires. The problem lies in choosing the wrong color temperature. Cold, bluish-white light, or worse, RGB shifting wildly into purples and reds, makes the kitchen look more like a budget bar than a high-end living space. Not to mention, those tiny LED dots reflecting off glossy stone countertops instantly expose a lack of refinement in the execution. A friend of mine in Houston once excitedly installed color-changing LEDs around his kitchen island to follow the trend. As a result, every time his parents came up from the countryside to visit, they would get dizzy walking into the kitchen from the flashing lights reflecting off the stone surface. The cheapest fix was to buy frosted aluminum diffuser channels to cover the LED strips and lock the settings to a warm yellow between 2,700 and 3,000 Kelvin. It cost $15 and was done. The kitchen became much easier on the eyes and noticeably more upscale without costing much. This is one of the cheapest yet most effective tips I have ever applied for clients. There is a 2-in-1 appliance that used to be very popular in rental properties, and it is silently causing a hazard right over your head every time you cook. 5. Over-the-range microwave. To be blunt, this is one of my least favorite designs when walking into a new kitchen. A microwave mounted directly above the range with a built-in range hood fan at the bottom. It sounds convenient and space-saving. In reality, it is a ticking time bomb for safety that many rental homes still use to cut costs. Placing a food heating appliance at an adult's eye level is a bad decision from the start. For young children, they almost have to stretch with all their might just to reach inside. A single slip of the hand means an instant burn. I once encountered a case in Texas where a 7-year-old boy spilled an entire plate of melted cheese onto his hand while trying to get food down from the microwave, requiring an immediate trip to the ER that night. The hood ventilation part of this type of microwave is also practically useless, only filtering through a thin aluminum mesh and then blowing back into the room without actually exhausting the air outside. If the house uses a gas range, this is a real issue for air quality because the gas exhaust just keeps circulating inside. Lowering the microwave into a base cabinet and installing a dedicated range hood with a ducted exhaust to the outside primarily costs the labor of cutting through the wall and running the duct, around $200 to $400. If there is no budget to get a new hood right away, keeping the OTR microwave but retrofitting the ductwork to exhaust air outside instead of recirculating it back into the room is already a significant step up. 6. Fabric curtains hiding base cabinets. Ditching the wood cabinet doors on the base cabinets entirely and replacing them with a fabric curtain pulled back and forth, true rustic farmhouse style. I understand its appeal on Pinterest. It does look cozy. But putting fabric curtains near a range is something to consider carefully. It's no joke. The curtain fabric absorbs grease and food odors extremely fast, easily breeds mold, and is also a favorite hiding spot for mice and roaches if not washed regularly. Fire hazard goes without saying. A single gust of wind is enough to blow the curtain into a burning gas stove, just like what happened to a family in rural Pennsylvania I know. Luckily, it was caught in time before the fire spread. If you like that rustic look, keep it. But just choose fire-retardant fabric or heavy, easy-to-wash canvas, and absolutely never hang it directly under the range or right next to the sink. I usually suggest clients switch to wooden wire mesh cabinet doors, which provide ventilation, maintain the country spirit, and eliminate worries about fire or pests. This is the compromise between aesthetics and safety that I propose most often. Sometimes the most dangerous thing in the kitchen isn't fire, but the water you drink every day from that very faucet. 7. Wrong style or low-quality faucet. Never save money on a faucet. I say this to almost every client, and it's not for aesthetic reasons, but because this is one of the few items in the kitchen that you actually put into your body every day. Low-quality faucets are often made of leaded brass, and lead silently leaches into the domestic water supply over time, which is particularly dangerous for the developing brains of young children. I once tested the water source for an apartment in New Jersey, and the lead levels exceeded the allowable limit. The main culprit was a gold-painted faucet that looked very luxurious, which the homeowner bought from an unknown discount website. Then there is the tall, towering industrial spring faucet style that was very hot a few years ago, but when installed in a small kitchen or a traditional style, it looks completely out of place. The water pressure from this type of faucet is also quite strong. If the sink is shallow, water splashes all over the floor, creating slippery puddles that are not good for elderly people or children walking around the kitchen. Choose a faucet that is certified lead-free and meets safety standards from familiar brands like Delta or Moen, with prices ranging from $150 to $250. You don't need a $1,000 faucet for it to be good. Just meeting safety standards is enough. 8. Fake-looking, heavy-veined stone countertops. About 5 years ago, marble-look quartz with large, dark, dramatic gray veins was something everyone wanted in their kitchen. Now it's completely different. The design world and affluent families alike are turning their backs on this type of stone, and I think that's right. The problem is that when this large veined stone flooded the low-end market, it no longer created a luxury feel. On the contrary, it looks like it's trying too hard to look wealthy. On the practical side, the high-gloss finish also reflects ceiling lights directly into your eyes, causing glare while you are holding a knife to chop food, and it also easily reveals scratches or etch marks left by acids from lemons and vinegar. A client of mine once bought a pre-flipped house where the contractor had thrown in a massively veined stone just to clear out old warehouse stock. She was sick of looking at it because it was too glaring under the lights. Instead of spending $5,000 to replace the entire countertop, I just had the installers hone down the gloss to a matte finish. The veins immediately softened and toned down, looking much more upscale than before. If you want to save money from the start, choose solid-colored quartz like creamy white, concrete gray, or stone with fine, small speckles. It's both modern and easy on the eyes, and the cost is significantly lighter than the elaborate large vein types. If you still keep this exposed frame cabinet door style from the 80s, your home's value will be dragged down to the cheapest level. 9. Half-overlay cabinet doors. There's a type of cabinetry that, at a glance, tells me the kitchen dates back to the 1980s or 90s. It's the kind with small doors, exposing about an inch or two of the surrounding wood frame, often called half-overlay. This style was once common in the cheapest cabinet segment at building supply stores, and it's still a telltale sign of an outdated kitchen. The problem isn't just the outdated appearance. That exposed wood frame creates numerous gaps and crevices. In humid climates like Florida or Houston, this is practically a highway for cockroaches, ants, and woodworms to infest. I once renovated a kitchen for a young couple in Atlanta who bought an old house with half-overlay cabinets where cockroaches had built nests right behind those gaps due to years of neglecting proper cleaning by the previous owner. Instead of spending $20,000 to start over, I advised them to disinfect the cabinets, keeping the perfectly good oak frame inside, and only ordering new full-overlay cabinet doors, large doors that completely cover the frame, at a cost of just over $2,500. The kitchen immediately looked clean and modern, without having to demolish the entire cabinet system, which was still in excellent condition. This is one of the most cost-effective pieces of advice I'm proud to give to clients. 10. No backsplash. Leaving the wall between the upper and lower cabinets bare, without any tiling or stone cladding, is one of the quickest ways to make a kitchen look unfinished. But honestly, the problem is much bigger than aesthetics. Water and grease, splatter from cooking or washing dishes will seep through the paint into the plaster, no matter how expensive the semi-gloss paint you use. Over time, this creates an ideal environment for black mold to grow right behind the wall, something invisible to the naked eye until a smell or stain becomes apparent. In Chicago, one of my clients bought an old house and left the kitchen wall bare for 2 years because they were too busy to tile it. Then they discovered the wall behind the sink had a foul odor and unsightly stains. When we cut through the plaster to check, the entire wooden frame inside was rotten and covered in mold due to dishwashing liquid seeping through the paint over a long period. The cost of fixing the underlying frame then amounted to $3,000, 20 times more than tiling from the start. There's no need to wait until you can afford high-end stone tiles to start. White ceramic subway tiles, 3 by 6 inches in size, are the cheapest option at hardware stores. You can buy them and install them yourself in a weekend for less than $150, but it protects the wall behind it from a far more costly disaster. There is a low-down area that is silently forcing you and your parents to pay the price with your health. 11. Kitchen lacking drawers. I often ask older clients, when opening your kitchen cabinets, do you have to kneel down? Many are hesitant to answer because it sounds embarrassing, but that's exactly the problem. Old-fashioned kitchen cabinets only have hinged doors with a single fixed shelf inside, forcing you to bend over or stick your head right up to retrieve a heavy cast-iron pot tucked deep in a corner. An elderly woman in California once sprained her back trying to reach for a blender hidden deep in a corner of her cabinet. Her son called me after that incident. Instead of removing all the old cabinets, I simply installed 6 sets of heavy-duty pull-out drawers into the existing drawers, each costing around $50 to $80, available online. Now she can stand upright and easily retrieve her items with a single finger, without kneeling or crawling. For people with back problems or simply those who aren't as agile as they were in their 30s, this isn't just about convenience. It's about maintaining independence in their own kitchen. I always tell the children of my older clients that a few $100 investment in pull-out trays is far more valuable than worrying every time their parents are cooking alone. 12. Cabinets not going to the ceiling. Standard ceilings are usually 8 feet high, with newer homes having 9 to 10 feet. The problem is that builders often hang 30 or 36-inch kitchen cabinets, leaving a 1-foot gap on top that nobody notices until they need to climb a ladder to clean it. I once renovated a kitchen for a family in Ohio whose 80-year-old grandmother had suffered from a chronic cough for years without a clear cause. When we removed the old half-height cabinets, we discovered a thick layer of black mold clinging to the top, a buildup of evaporated grease mixed with fine dust accumulated over many years. It wasn't ordinary dust, but a sticky, damp film, the perfect environment for mold to thrive. After sealing the gap with molding, connecting the cabinets to the ceiling, and treating the mold, the kitchen air improved significantly, and the grandmother's cough subsided noticeably within a few weeks. There's no need to tear down and rebuild the cabinet from scratch. Just a few sheets of plywood in the same color as the cabinet to create a false wall to seal the gap, then add a large molding, and for a few $100s in materials, you can transform the old cabinet into a seamless, clean cabinet system all the way to the ceiling. For families with elderly people or young children with a history of asthma, I always recommend prioritizing this repair on the renovation list. Having dealt with the mold trap up high, this final mistake lies right on the countertop, stemming from your very own shopping habits. 13. Scattered, cluttered, smart countertop appliances. Many people are now obsessed with smart kitchen appliances, large air fryers with built-in steam, coffee makers with touchscreens, and separate ice makers. Each one sounds useful, but cramming them all onto a countertop with no place to hide them results in a jumble of wires, plugs, and metal and plastic components crammed together like a miniature electronics store. In San Jose, I once visited a kitchen where the air fryer, ice maker, and coffee maker were all crammed together on the countertop, wires intertwined like a spider web. The homeowner recounted nearly tripping the circuit breaker because they plugged too many high-power appliances into a single power outlet. For homes with young children, tangled wires near water sources are equally concerning. We tidied up, storing 80% of the appliances in lower cabinets, leaving only the coffee maker they use every morning on the countertop. If you have a larger budget, you can create a separate cabinet with sliding doors, complete with built-in safe electrical outlets. After use, simply close the cabinet, and the countertop will be perfectly smooth as if nothing ever happened. Without that budget, a small shelf in a dead corner with a neat cable management box will suffice, as long as you only keep 1 or 2 items you actually use daily on the countertop. Remember that looking cheap does not lie in the amount of money you spend, but in a lack of observation. A tens of thousands of dollars kitchen can still look cheap if a few small details are overlooked, while a kitchen remodeled the right way can look much more upscale without costing much at all.